Welcome to City of Churches, a look at distinctive houses of worship right here in the Brooklyn Diocese. Now, in addition to each church's individual architecture and design, churches reflect the neighborhoods that surround them. I'm Nick Bavis, and today I'm in Sunset Park, Brooklyn to visit Our Lady of Perpetual Help Basilica. It's one of only 15 basilicas in the entire United States. Now, the neighborhood itself is called Sunset Park, and today we're actually in the park. Now, Sunset Park is one of the highest natural elevations in Brooklyn, and it's famous for its spectacular views of the Manhattan skyline. And you can see behind me Manhattan, Staten Island, New Jersey, even the Statue of Liberty is over there. One of the things that's really incredible, and you have to come down here and see, is the sunset. 100 years ago, New York Harbor was filled with ships of all sizes, delivering and picking up tons of cargo. These vessels arrived on the Brooklyn waterfront from both near and faraway places. Sunset Park was a thriving community, supplying most of the labor force for two maritime facilities, the Brooklyn Army Terminal and the Bush Terminal, America's first fully integrated manufacturing, storage, and shipping facility. Goods could be manufactured, stored, and shipped out by rail or by boat. Railroad tracks extended right into the warehouses along the waterfront for quick and efficient loading of boxcars. Depending on their ultimate destination, some freight trains were routed through Brooklyn and Queens, although a common sight was boxcars being floated across New York Harbor on barges to Manhattan and New Jersey. The workers were predominantly Irish, Polish, and Norwegians who supported their families by working in the terminal's factories, the warehouses, or on the waterfront piers, loading and unloading huge freighters. The main thoroughfare of Sunset Park was Fifth Avenue. It was filled with thriving businesses, crowded sidewalks, and busy shoppers. Street traffic included horse-drawn wagons, automobiles, and clanging trolley cars, which was a popular mode of transportation at the time. During World War II, 85% of the U.S. Army's personnel and supplies were shipped out through the Brooklyn Army Terminal. Now, this created a huge number of jobs, which was really needed at the time. More than 10,000 civilians were employed from the Sunset Park area to load the boatloads of ships that were headed overseas to our American soldiers who were fighting. After the war, however, a lot of the shipping industry moved to more modern port facilities over in New Jersey, and this created a huge loss of jobs in the Sunset Park area. Then there was the discontinuation of the elevated subway line along 3rd Avenue and the construction of the Gowanus Parkway, which demolished a lot of the homes. So, in search for a better life for themselves and a new place to live, there was a huge exodus of people from Brooklyn, and at that point, the area really began to deteriorate. So I'm in 5th Avenue in Sunset Park between 46th Street and 47th Street, and as you can see, the area really rebuilt itself. Now, this area was traditionally been a commercial strip for generations. It catered primarily to Irish, Polish, Norwegian populations. Today, it's primarily Latino-owned. And even on the street itself, there was a trolley line that ran here. It was really the place to be. Now, I could head straight up and we'll be at the church a few blocks, but I want to take in a little detour. 2 blocks to the south, we're going to go someplace that's really emerged, a neighborhood that is now called Brooklyn's Chinatown. So, come on. Well, here we are on 8th Avenue, which is now known as Brooklyn's Chinatown. Now, believe it or not, 10 years ago, this area was purely residential. None of this was here. And the Chinese community has developed this, and there's stores, there's fish markets, great restaurants, banks. It's completely transformed itself. Now, something interesting, there's a van that travels back and forth up the streets and takes people to Manhattan for only $2. It's like a cab. It sees people, they wave them down, jump in the van, head to Manhattan, come on back, only $2. So I tell you what, I'm on 59th Street. I'm gonna hook a right and we're gonna head up to the church, okay? It's time, so follow me. So we've arrived at Our Lady of Perpetual Help Basilica. Now, we just passed the rectory and the parish school, and we just came from 5th Avenue, which was our Latino community, and 8th Avenue, which was our thriving Chinese community. Now, I have to tell you, I walked up, and this really is huge. It is a basilica. I can't wait to see the inside. Now, something interesting about this cathedral basilica, it is the place for major liturgical events. On October 3rd, 2003, the installation ceremony for Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio was held here. Over 2,000 people attended, including Cardinal Egan, bishops, archbishops, priests, family and friends. And the great thing for the neighborhood and the community is that it was broadcast live. Now, an interesting fact about the basilica, it was constructed in 2 different stages, about 20 years apart. The other thing is it's so large, it takes up almost the entire block with the parish school in the back. So when you first approach the church, you notice the steps, and they were constructed in an upward style, almost in an inviting way to come up to the entrance to the church. On either side of the entrance, there's stone columns and stone arches. And right above the entrance is this beautiful stained glass window. And of course, there's the bell towers, these 2 huge pillars that you can see from blocks away. So let's go on in. Father Tizio, how are you?
Welcome, nice to have you. Welcome
Thank
to
you
Our
so
Lady of
much.
Perpetual Help Church.
This is amazing. It's gigantic. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions on this tour, and I think we should just start with the building, the architecture. What can you tell me about that, when it was constructed?
This upper church was built in 1925. They began construction. It was completed in 1928. It seats about 2,000 people.
Just the upper church?
Just
right?
the upper church, yes.
So was it built in 2 stages then? There's a
Yeah,
lower church?
lower
the upper
church.
we're in.
Lower church was built in 1909, and then they built the upper church here in 1925. The parish started in 1893, and there used to be a small wooden church.
On this site? It was a small
Yeah,
wooden
on this
church?
site,
Okay.
and the community started to grow so rapidly that eventually we built the lower church, and it continued to grow, so we needed an upper church too.
Basilica means it's so grand and gigantic?
Yeah,
like-
Basilica is the Pope's church. It's a church dedicated to the Pope. So in 1968, this was designated as a basilica, partially for its magnificence and its beauty.
You know, last year we visited St. James. How would you say this compares to St. James, which is the only other basilica?
It's
Is that
the only
correct,
other
in Brooklyn?
basilica in Brooklyn. We're larger physically.
I'm just looking around. I see the stained glass is beautiful, by the way. Do you know is that original?
Our churches, our Redemptorist churches, were built by Germans, so they're built in a magnificent scale. The stained glass was imported from Germany.
One of the things you had mentioned earlier is the shrine to
Yeah, Our Lady's Shrine is over there, and
Okay.
she's also the patroness of Haiti.
Of Haiti.
So we just had a magnificent liturgy here to pray for the people who died in the earthquake. The Feast of Our Lady Perpetual Help is June 27th, so every year we just fill the church with
Upper church and lower church?
Upper church is completely filled. They're deeply devoted to her.
I'm looking directly at a confessional.
Yes.
It's making me think of a lot of things from childhood. There's got to be a dozen confessionals, which is very unique.
Yeah, there
Do you
was
have enough priests to fill? 12
not anymore.
confessionals?
There was a day when there were almost 30 priests here, and close to 30,000 parishioners. It was a huge place. It still is a large parish.
Yeah.
But
Are
there
they
were,
still used, the
these
confessionals?
confessionals we do not use
You
anymore.
do not use? Okay.
Most of our confessions are downstairs.
Or
now.
down. The other thing I'm looking at, Father, is the tabernacle. Normally you see that more
Right,
in the
that's
center
our
of the
chapel
altar.
of reservation, and it's, you'll notice there's some kneelers there, and it's there so that people could literally walk up to the altar, and just kneel there and have time for personal prayer.
So that's somewhat a shrine.
Yeah.
We just walked about, I feel like, a half a mile. This has to be the longest
Yes.
trip to the altar.
Brides love Our Lady
I was
of
going to say the
Perpetual
brides
Help.
must have to go and work
I
out
love
before
this
this.
church.
And then also, I'm looking up at the choir loft and the
Yes.
organ, which is massive as well.
The organ is original from when the church was built. Unfortunately, it's in some disrepair, and because it's a pipe organ, the cost would be prohibitive for us right now to get it repaired. Our hope would be eventually to repair it because it is a magnificent instrument.
So where now is the choir?
The choir now, you'll see there's some chairs up there, and we have
by the altar.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have an
So
electronic
they're up
organ.
Okay.
Hopefully someday we'll be able to get the pipe organ.
Okay. And as we move up to the altar, I mean, this is magnificent. And the first thing I would ask about is the umbrella. What does that indicate?
Yeah, that's the designation of the church as a basilica.
So there's 4 statues, 2 on each side.
The first one is St. Patrick. That's in honor of the Irish heritage.
Okay.
The other 3 are Redemptorist saints because this parish was founded by the Redemptorist community and is still staffed by the Redemptorists. So we have St. Gerard Magella, St. Clement Hofbauer, and the founder of our Redemptorist community, St. Alphonsus Liguori.
Got it. And then I forgot to ask you about the sanctuary lamp, which never goes out.
It's
is that
always
correct?
lit. That reminds people that the Lord is present there in the Eucharist. The only time that's out would be on Good Friday when we remove the Eucharist.
Well, this is very interesting. The crucifix in the center with the saints on either side.
Yeah, it's
That's something very
we have the
unique.
crucifix, the Virgin Mary, and St. John. The dome of the church is the Assumption of the Virgin Mary. Below that we have angels surrounding, and then the paintings below that are all on the theme of Christ the King, because this church was built when the Feast of Christ the King was instituted. So you have Moses, David, John the Baptist, and St. Paul surrounding Christ the King, and each of them below has a designation of their ministry for Christ the King.
And then there's also the coat of arms beneath each one. And I understand that in combination with, I don't know the name for the
Yeah,
bell.
that's the tintinabulum, the umbrellino,
Tintinabulum
and the coat of arms.
and the coat of arms.
So that when you walk in, you know right away that this is a basilica.
That designates it as basilica.
Right.
And then straight in front of me is another chapel.
Sometimes we have, for example, a memorial service for a deceased parishioner where there maybe are about 15, 20, or 25 people. And instead of opening the huge church, this provides us a more intimate space for prayer and a place where families sometimes could gather a little more intimately to worship and to remember a loved one.
There's really a lot of small rooms and I guess areas you could call chapels or shrines. Just getting in here, we got somewhat lost. I mean, there's the upper church, the lower
You
church.
very easily get lost.
There's
It's
a lot of separate
Yeah, it's a
rooms in
big
here.
place. It's a big place.
One of the things I know that's very special and unique to this church is a chapel that's downstairs.
We're a religious community, as I said, the Redemptorist, and one of our requirements is we gather for prayer several times a day as a community of religious priests and brothers. So we have a very beautiful chapel, which is our prayer chapel where we go for prayer. In that chapel, you'll see there's a beautiful stained glass window which has, again, our Redemptorist saints, Our Lady of Perpetual. Every place you turn in this church, you will find a picture of Our Lady of Perpetual Help. She's everywhere. But that little chapel is where we gather as a religious community for our own time for private and personal prayer and to pray as a group of priests and community.
Is that something unique to this church? I mean, have you seen that at other churches?
You would you would find that in a church that's run by a religious order, a religious community. You usually would find a chapel where the community gathers.
Which this is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our convent, for example, also has a chapel where the nuns gather. So it's very similar. Any religious community would have a gathering place for prayer, personal prayer, and for communal prayer.
Okay. We had mentioned earlier, you'd mentioned to me about the lower church. And I know there's some very, very special things down there I'd like to see. If that's something you could show me, I would love to see what's downstairs.
I'm most glad
and
to
I'll
go
follow
take
you
you.
because I'll get lost if I don't. So
Go right through here.
Perfect. So this, Father, is what you mentioned is the lower church, right?
Yes.
And so this was originally part of the original church as
This
well?
is
built with the top and-
this was built first. This is the original church. This was built in 1909. We use this church every day. This is our daily place for worship. One of our priests calls it the kitchen. It's the place.
It's where everyone
Yeah,
congregates.
everyone congregates. It's comfortable. The upper church is very formal and large and stately. This is like the kitchen. It's where we're comfortable, where we worship every day. Plus, for the elderly and the handicapped, it's accessible. There's no steps. It's very easy to come into, and it's spacious.
It's a much more intimate space too, it feels like. I mean, upstairs is so grand and it's beautiful and it's very...
Yeah, it lends itself to everyday worship and where people just feel very comfortable. Our parish is a parish of many different ethnic groups. On any Sunday, we have liturgy here in English, Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese. So we have a number of different ethnic groups. And what we've done is we've created these shrines, and each of these shrines is to the different native patrons and patronesses of our different ethnic groups. So here, for example, we have Our Lady of China, and here we have Our Lady of Vietnam. And there's about 9 of them, and each of them honors the ethnicity of our parish, and it also gives our different ethnic groups a chance to express their spirituality, to express what's special about their cultures.
Is this unique, would you say, in terms of any church? I mean, this is something I've yet to see.
It's unique for the number of shrines that we have and for the number of ethnicities that we have. Every church has something to their ethnic groups, but this year we have actual shrines, and as you can see, there's quite a few of them, so we really do.
Can we take a look? Actually, there's some on the other side too, if you can.
Sure. As we walk to the other side, some of the differences between the upper and the lower church, you can see the entrance of the lower church is far more simple. It's street level. It's not grand. It's a smaller scale from the upper church. It doesn't have the grandeur of the upper church. The color scheme is very soft and warm. One of the things I like about the lower church is it's somewhat calming. The colors aren't grand and then this big scale. The windows are much smaller. It has a darker, softer feel to it, more of an informal feel.
It has this great echo too.
It's a great
echo.
echo.
Kind of spooky.
The ceiling's lower, and these churches were built before microphones. They were built with acoustics so that you'd be able to be heard.
So, and on this side we have the
More
shrines.
We have shrines on this side to our Redemptorist saints, Saint Gerard, Saint Clement, Blessed Silos, who died in New Orleans and we hope someday will become a saint, Saint Alphonsus, Saint John Newman, who was 4th Bishop of Philadelphia and was ordained here in New York City. And then we have our Filipino community. They have a devotion to the Santo Niño. So here we have some more of our shrines of patrons that are important to our parish.
Is there a shrine that's most popular, would you say?
Probably the most popular shrines would be the Pietà. If you look at the Pietà, you'll see that she's almost worn out from people touching her.
it?
Yeah, and Guadalupe is very popular because we have a very large Mexican community. So usually people will gravitate toward Guadalupe and toward the Pietà. Those are the most popular shrines.
If you could talk to me a bit about the altar and how this is different, what's unique about the altar compared to the upper church?
What's unique with this is the size of the sanctuary. Funerals we always do in the lower church, partially because it's street level. But also, for example, sometimes when we have the death of a priest, we have a funeral. So several weeks ago, one of our really dear priests passed away, and we had 50 priests here celebrating.
Wow.
So as you can see, we very easily can accommodate
Can fit everybody.
A large number of priests here. Also, one of the beauties of this church is the tabernacle is very accessible. People are able to walk right into the sanctuary, and there's seats there and kneelers, where if someone just wants to sit close to the tabernacle and pray peacefully, they could do so. And also, once again, we have our shrine to Our Lady of Perpetual Help. Every place you turn, she's with us, she's here, she's the center of this community.
Well, with that, I appreciate it, Father. Thank you so much. On behalf of myself and the viewers, so much information you gave us. Thank you for the tour. And that concludes this episode of City of Churches here at Our Lady of Perpetual Help, Basilica, in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Now, if you'd like more information on this episode or any other church in this series, you can log on to netny.net. Or if you'd like to suggest a church we should profile in a future episode, you can log on as well. Until next time, I'm Nick Vavis with City of Churches. Hey guys, Nick Vavis here with City of Churches. Tune in next time. I'll be here visiting beautiful St. Sebastian's in Woodside. It's incredible. A lot of surprises, a lot of artifacts. You won't believe what we've discovered. So tune in next time right here on Net.